Today, you'll be let in on a dirty secret. Today, you're gonna get the scoop on poop. All right. Hey now. Mr. Kovacs class. It's Mr. Kovacs class. You might learn on time. It's Mr. Kovacs class.
He's interested too.
It's Mr. Kovacs class.
And he's super cool.
It's Mr. Kovacs class. Where do we go from here? Yeah, we made it to the end of the digestive system, and everybody knows that at the end, whatever you have digested or haven't completely digested but not absorbed, you get rid of as feces or poo. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that it's one of the best ways to monitor your health is to monitor your poo. I'm not gonna get into too much of the nitty-gritty details, but yeah, I mean, poo comes in different shapes, and that could tell you kind of how much water. Think about it. If your poop is moving so slowly that you take out most of the water before it gets to the end, it's going to be very hard and dry when it gets there. If your poop is moving too quickly through your colon, well, then when it gets to the end, there'll be a lot of water left in it. Neither of those are fun, and neither of those are normal. Right? Let's see, what else can I, poop we usually expect to be brown, but every once in a while you can get different colors showing up, and they tell you different things. Usually not something you have to worry about as long as you know what you've been eating, right? Like, like black stool is pretty common if you take like a Pepto-Bismol or something. If you eat beets, you're probably going to be red. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, poop. Of course, what happened to it? That's what I wanted to focus on today, because it's something we don't think about too often. Now, here in Peru, a fairly rural part of the world, a lot of you, when you flush the toilet, that water goes into what's called a septic tank. The septic tank is buried in your yard or in the ground, and it's a tank made of concrete, and the water flows down into the septic tank. And then eventually the heavy stuff settles to the bottom of the septic tank, and then the water flows into what we call a leach field. Here, this is maybe a better picture of it, right? You flush, it goes into the septic tank. The septic tank fills up with like the solid waste, and then there's a little separator allowing the water to move into the next part of the septic tank, and then eventually it moves into what we call the leach field, which is probably part of your yard, which underneath topsoil, there's some like gravel and stuff. And the job of the leach field is for this poop water to just slowly percolate downward into the groundwater aquifer. Okay. My guess is if you have a septic tank, you probably also have a well, and your septic tank and your well your well is located uphill from your septic tank. Right? It's good to know if you have a septic tank, remember, whatever you put down the toilet is going to sit in your yard. So, yeah, it's really important not to flush things that you shouldn't flush. Okay, and then there are lots of bacteria that work in here to basically break down solids. So, like when you get your septic tank pumped, every couple of years or so, the man comes or the person comes and he pulls up the solids. You actually want to leave a little bit behind to keep the bacteria count up. That's why like dumping things like chemicals, like cleaners and stuff, can actually be bad for your septic tank. You just want to keep that because it might damage the bacteria. And then you probably noticed on your house, whether you're a septic tank or not, you've got a vent, right? When you flush the toilet, the water and the waste and a little bubble of air get flushed down, right? What they try to do is right here, the air escapes up and then the watery stuff escapes down. That also, the vent allows for any gases that build up in the septic tank to leak out the top of your house instead of into your bathrooms. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if you start smelling that septic smell in your house, that might be a sign that your tank is full and needs to be pumped out, or there's like a blockage, like some leaves or something got caught in your vent. You know, if your toilets are gurgling when this person upstairs flushes, that's usually that there's something blocking the vent, and you just got to clean that out. All right, isn't this fun? Now, if you live here in town, you don't have a septic system. You have a sewer. We have a sewer, a town sewer. So it works kind of the same way, but except for when you flush, instead of going into a container, it goes into a big pipe. And that pipe eventually flows down to the wastewater treatment plant, which goes through a whole bunch. In fact, your part 3 today, you're going to learn what happens at the wastewater treatment plant. But just to let you know, because you know, here we are in town, or right here's the middle school. When you flush the toilet in the middle school, it flows downhill by most of these houses here. Most of these houses add their stuff to the flow, and eventually it flows into the middle of town, down to the wastewater treatment facility, which is here. Like, let's go back a little bit. Here's like the town trail, right? Here's the wastewater on this side of the river, I guess. Wastewater. It's a big swimming pool looking thing. So this is Peru's wastewater treatment. We treat our water here in this big pool. And you can see in this satellite shot, you probably don't want to go swimming in it. But it gets treated and eventually returns to the Little Osebo River. So all of the water that gets flushed down the drains here in school goes to this pool. It gets filtered, and then that water goes into the river, and the stuff that's filtered out usually gets put into a landfill. So that's where it goes when you go with the flow.